Hey everyone, welcome back to Average Consumer, where I'm going to do my best to break things down. Is it worth your time and is it worth your money? And this week I'm going to add to the multitude of Airpods Pro Gen 2 reviews that are out there. I hope I'm going to do things just slightly differently. I won't be spending a ton of time going through the specs and details of the product. I think we've all seen enough of the unboxing situations and scenarios there. What I'm going to try to do is break things down in the way that I have experienced these over the past week, and what I've noticed as upgrades from Gen 1 and what has impacted my daily driving of these AirPods. So first of all, I will call out the extra speakers and the like in the case. That is very handy, and especially if you do lose these, it's definitely going to be much easier to locate them using the phone for the Find My iPhone, Find My, it's like an AirTag built directly into the case. And I thought it would be nice to hear the little clicks and chirps that the case makes when you're doing the charging, but frankly it beeps and makes noises all the time, whether you're taking AirPods in or out or putting them on a charger. Frankly, I think it's going to get a little old pretty quickly. I don't need to be notified every time I'm taking any kind of action. Otherwise, the AirPods themselves, of course, look exactly like the old, almost, except for the vents positioning and a few other things. I do like that the stem now has a touch where you can increase and lower the volume, although I will have to admit it's gotten a little hard to get used to, and it doesn't trigger all the time. So we'll see. Maybe it's just going to be something that I have to get used to. Ear tips, I'm using the medium sizes now. I was using the small previously on the old. It's nice to see that they went extra small. I know that people are having some problems with that. If you watch previous episodes, you know that I've always struggled with any kind of earbud, and you're probably wondering, if that's the case, then why do I go with the AirPods Pro? Well, this is the only AirPod, the only earbud for that matter, that actually doesn't have that metal or that plastic hard stem down the center, and I'm surprised a lot more people aren't talking about that. I think that's one of the main reasons to get the AirPods Pro. They're just far more comfortable. I don't have to twist them in, and it's actually a quick process to put them in compared to what I have with any other bud that I've ever used. So I appreciate that. They're easy to use and they're comfortable, and I haven't had any problems with them falling out or what have you. So I think where this is going to be the biggest difference, and that I found anyway, that drives it the most, is the sound quality between these two. But I think a lot of people, especially audiophiles, they tolerated these earbuds, and I kind of like them as well because there is a flat response, and there wasn't a ear V shape that we would see in a lot of the more popular earbuds. Beats comes to mind, where there's a definite emphasis in the bass. That's where the Pro ones really shined, the flatness of the response. Where you're going to see a big difference going into the Pro Gen 2s is that there is definitely, I'm going to say, a slight V shape to the sound, a more pleasing, a more fun sound that I think is going to be, frankly, more popular and seen as an upgrade. Bass is a little bit more forward, treble is a little bit more detailed, and without losing any of the mids that were fine in Gen 1. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and being that I'm an old man, I'm going to use some classic rock tracks to explain what you're going to experience between the two earbuds. So we're going to start with the band Rush, and hopefully, please go listen to Rush if you haven't checked them out before. But Rush Subdivision is the track that I'm going to talk about. Geddy Lee's bass playing is a bit more forward, and you can actually hear the bass line in more detail in Gen 2 than you could in Gen 1. And when you're talking about a 3-piece band like that actually is a pretty significant difference that I really enjoyed hearing. Neil Peart's drum playing, cymbals have more sparkle and more definition, and it just stands out more. So in comparison to these two, I'm going to say Gen 2 definitely gets the win here, especially in that track. So how can you talk about doing some comparisons, but other than going into Leonard Skinner's Freebird? What I thought was really interesting there is that at the beginning there's an acoustic guitar, and I can actually hear the pick clicking across the guitar strings in Gen 2, that was kind of neat. Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. The piano and the vocals were less veiled in comparison to Gen 1. The drums that start coming in at 1:20, the minute 20, the cymbals have more sparkle, and the bass drum has more impact. You can actually get that thump in the bass drum. Guitar solo at the 2-minute 40-second mark, that sounds more balanced with and fits in with the other instruments better. And then, of course, we have the Wayne's World. Everybody knows the Rockin' Wayne's World section, starting at 3 minutes. But at the 4-minute 9-second mark, there's a lot more going on at this point. And the Pro 2s do a better job maintaining the instrument separation. So I hope that gives you kind of a snippet or a summary of what I'm hearing and difference. And I'm hoping that I picked some songs that everybody is familiar with there. If you think I should try to use some others, why don't you comment below? I'd really appreciate some sort of feedback regarding that. I'm going to say, however, is one of the big things that I use my headphones for is podcast listening. And I have a tendency of just popping one in as I'm walking around the house or doing some things. And it's only happened a couple times now where the Gen 2s are, because of the extra bass, I think that's the situation there. It does emphasize the plosives more, and you probably just heard a plosive there, where that's when you hear somebody use P's and B's, and depending on the mic situation, the plosives will come out a lot more in detail, and it'll kind of drive the headphone just a hair. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be a big problem. I only noticed it on 1 or 2 episodes of various podcasts lately, and that could have been just a one-off. Noise canceling is pretty significant. I don't know if I'd go as far as saying it's 2 times as good, but how do you measure that? I will say that in comparison, I kind of went to an extreme. I used this on a riding lawnmower. The Gen 1s would reduce the lawnmower noise to about, took like 30% off the top. The new versions maybe cuts it in half. Definitely something that I'm going to wear while I'm riding the lawnmower. Can still listen to a podcast and everything. I definitely would notice a huge difference if it's just the air conditioner or the furnace running. And I suspect it would do a pretty decent job on planes and the like as well. Transparency mode has seen a fairly decent upgrade. The only time I use transparency mode more frequently. The only thing that sounds a little strange to you is your own voice, of course. Everybody else, it sounds very natural, and in fact, they're so comfortable again that sometimes you can kind of forget you're even wearing them. The adaptive EQ, I'm going to call this out because I've noticed something that I don't know if I've seen a lot of people mention this, but the adaptive EQ is kind of interesting on the Gen 2s. I don't know if you've noticed this, but when you listen to other headphones or earbuds for that matter, when you start dropping the volume down, you will start to lose detail because you're not pushing enough power onto those drivers to maybe maintain the sparkle in the highs or the bass on the bass end. The Gen 2s do a better job with the adaptive EQ, so when you're dropping the volume, it's doing its best to, even though the volume is decreasing, the detail remains, if that makes sense. So I thought that was interesting, and it was kind of a nice upgrade. So one of the things that I think is interesting, and I've seen one other podcaster mention this, is that I think there's something else coming. We saw with Gen 1s, we saw that spatial audio coming, and I'm going to say that is another upgrade that is between the two because of the extra bass and the detail in Gen 2. The spatial audio just sounds better. I'm not as a huge of a fan using spatial audio when I'm listening to music, but when I'm watching some sort of content or media, like a movie on an airplane, I can definitely see myself using spatial audio for that type of purpose. But I'm kind of guessing that we're going to possibly see some sort of lossless audio coming to Gen 2. We saw a couple mentions of 48,000, that number 48,000 in a couple scenarios. One of them was regarding the H2 chip and the adaptive EQ, but I think the problem we have with Bluetooth today is that we can't have that much information in that Bluetooth band. And I don't know what they're going to do or what they're trying to do, but I think Apple might. This is just me speculating, of course, but I think they might have figured out a way in which to provide lossless audio to these earbuds. And I'd like to see what and how they do it. I'm going to also further guess that it might have something to do with their AirDrop technology, but we'll see. But Gen 1s and Gen 2s. For the price difference here, if you're going to buy brand new, I really struggle in recommending the Gen 1s. The Gen 2s they're just better all around. And is it worth the upgrade? Well, I'm going to say that if you're an audiophile and you're always hunting for the latest and greatest, I definitely would say it is worth the upgrade. If you had Gen 1s at the very beginning and you've held on them for jeepers, I suppose it's been 3 years now, the battery might have started to deplete, and maybe it's time for that natural upgrade going to the newest technology. I think it's definitely worth it, and there's a lot of compelling reasons, particularly around the sound quality, that would be a driver there. So I hope that helps you. Let me know what your thoughts are, and if you found any value here and you thought maybe this could help somebody else, would you do me a quick favor and share it with them? And leave a comment below if you don't like my taste in music and I should try some other tracks. Let me know. I think I might be onto something regarding to sticking to popular songs that everybody probably would have recognized at this point. Maybe I'll start using music from Marvel movies that a Led Zeppelin song here and there might be beneficial. So again, is it worth your time and is it worth your money? I'm going to say yes and yes. I do think so. And these have displaced a lot of things that I would normally carry around with me. But really appreciate your time. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.